Hey guys, Jason and Andrew here with another subscriber interaction video. So, a little while back, we did a video answering your questions, and we had a lot of fun, so we thought we would do something similar, but this time reacting to your hot takes. I think this sort of video format is pretty popular among other YouTubers, and, well, us being the professionals that we are, we thought we would get in on the action. So we've got a lot of opinions today, and we actually got so many responses, and we wanted to answer all of them. We had to split this into two videos. So today is part one. Now, Andrew, are you ready?
Yeah, we'll also be rating your hot takes out of 10.
Yes, so we're rating them in terms of how hot they are, not how much we like them.
Oh, we
Because
like
there's
all
a
of them.
difference. But all right. For the first hot take, Stefan says Rothas makes for a great advantage generating card, especially when combined with cheap creatures with leaving the battle zone abilities. You get a Proclamation of Death effect, a 4K body, and effect from, air quotes, Death Rattle. What do you think about this, Andrew?
Yeah, so this one I think is really cool because, I have a, I guess, soft spot for these effects.
Yeah, I
I think
wonder
it's
why.
yeah. I don't know. It's just really it's just a cool mechanic. I think, and really like Rothas or even Proc is like one of those cards that is like almost good. I think. Unfortunately, like it does need a bit of extra push. For example, like what if Rothas was a shield trigger, or what if Proc had a body? Interestingly, there has been a few cards like that in DMP. There's one that I just looked this up before. It's called Death Circle, and it actually did see play. So yeah, I think this is all in all a pretty hot take since Rothas and Proc for that regard isn't really played, but also like they could be, they're just cards that are cool to experiment with. So I would give this a 7 out of 10. How about you,
Oh.
Jason?
When you say proc with a body, so a shield trigger creature. So
Yep. Yep.
basically, if Rothas had shield trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty good, I think.
Hmm.
I think this is a pretty hot take as well, given how Rothas is not very highly regarded in the TCG. I just feel like sequences and combos, especially in the TCG, need to have really big payoffs. And, the combo described doesn't seem bad. I still think it asks for too much given how little it does.
Yeah, especially
Now,
since like DMP has a lot more like creatures with these like death rattle abilities, right?
yeah,
So to fully take
but
advantage of the effect, you have to have those cards as well.
yeah, but I don't think this is that hot. I think it's kind of hot, so I would give it a 6 chilies out of 10. I feel like there are a couple of people who like playing in this sort of
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I definitely think so. Maybe I was a bit too generous, but I don't know. Rothas is not played at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Craig asks, Maru-Ooze is in the top 10 most versatile cards in Darkness. What do you think?
I think this take is scalding hot. Because here's the thing. The only deck where Marrow Ooze is a proven concept is Hydro Hurricane, at least from what I know. So based on that, I'm inclined to to disagree. I think Marrow Ooze as a card has merit, and it's good at the role it plays, but I don't think it's particularly versatile. So I'm giving Craig 10 chilies.
Oh man, the maximum points already. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah, you only really see Maru-Ooze in Hydro Hurricane, right? It's not really splashable, which is what the hot take was, because Maru-Ooze is definitely not versatile. Yeah, I just think it does like enough, right? Like it's a blocker that dies, or like it dies when it attacks.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think if Craig is able to crack the code to making darkness-based rush a thing in the TCG, then I'll have to eat my words, Like if Craig somehow figures out how to make Fire Dark Rush really good or something like that.
But even
But
then, I think like because again, it's like versatile, right? But even if it's good in that deck, it's still not really versatile because it's only fits like one archetype. Oh no, I guess Hydro Hurricane
well,
is control.
it's
Yeah.
two decks now on like polar ends
Yeah,
of the spectrum.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give it 8 chilies out of 10. We have some bangers here. Okay, moving on to the next question. Catspur wanted to share 4 different opinions, actually. So firstly, do you think there's merit in using proxy and bootleg cards, especially since some cards are very expensive and difficult to obtain?
Yeah, I personally agree with this sentiment. We don't have any official tournaments, and TCG games basically operate on a house rules system across the different communities. So I see no problem with this, especially if it lowers barriers to entry. The reasons that we personally tend to not use proxies are because, one, I don't know of any proxy card makers, and two, we notice that viewers seem to like seeing the physical cards, even if they are in Japanese, so that's why we continue to do it. Also, I love the Star Wars reference in your original comment, but I'm gonna give this 1 out of 10 chilies because I don't think this is a hot take at all. I think this is it's a pretty common opinion.
Yeah,
Maybe 2
I
chilies.
agree as well. Like, yeah, it just kind of reduces that barrier to entry, right? And especially since like cards now costs like astronomical prices. It just makes sense because you know, at the end of the day, you want more people playing this game. So I think definitely not. Well, the hot take is definitely on the milder side of things. I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
Nice.
Okay, Catspur also asks if playing 42 to 45 card decks could add a little bit of extra spice. But also he says that 50 plus cards is not okay. What do you think about that?
I also agree. I think 40 cards does constrain deck building, especially for a lot of non-rush or aggro decks, and that's by design. I do think that 42 to 45 cards would be interesting, and yeah, I think 50 card controlled piles are kind of gross, but personally, you know, I think it's good for us to keep our format to 40 to align with the OCG. All things considered, I don't think this is a hot take either. I think most people are on the same page. It's just if you like control, then you allow 50 cards in the format, and
Yeah, exactly.
if you don't like us, then you don't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say that like, you know, it really comes down to the type of environment that you want to play in, right? Like you said before, the switch to 40 cards in our format was to try and nerf control decks a bit, which we find, you know, not too fun. But maybe, you know, there's some players that really like control versus control matchups. You don't know.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I agree that, you know, just finding what you find most fun is more important. But in terms of hot takes, I agree with Jason. Not that much of a hot take.
Yeah.
I think the
I
general
would give this
consensus is with us.
yeah, I would give this 1 chili.
Oh no! I'll give it 2.
All right.
Yeah, I also agree with 50 to 55 cards is a little bit excessive. Okay, continue on with Casper. He also agrees with us in one of our recent videos that a Chorale ban isn't really necessary. What do you think? Well, we know what we think.
Yeah, well, we know what we think, and I'm glad that you watched the video and you found it decent. I was actually expecting a lot more backlash for when I put out the video. I was like, this is probably like my clickbaitiest video. But to my surprise, because I read the comments, people were like, yeah, you know, Coral's not broken, and a lot of people just don't like it. So
Yeah.
I don't think this is a hot take. From what I understand, the Finnish community chose to restrict Corile because they don't find it fun. And it's not because it's unhealthy, right? They just find it unfun. So it's more of a user experience rule rather than a gameplay balance rule.
Yeah.
So, but because I'm sure there are people out there who think Core Isle is super duper strong and broken, maybe I'll give this 3 chilies.
Only three. I'll give it a bit more. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think this used to be a pretty hot take. I think if you like rewind a few years ago, then
Yes,
this would
very true.
definitely be up there, like at least 6 or 7. But yeah, like Jason said, I do think like with Coral, you remember the times where you just get absolutely wrecked by it, right? And not really the times where you kind of just like play it on a bronze arm and then it goes back and then it gets some 1 mana and it doesn't really do much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Andrew only remembers the times that like his Bolmedius got caught out
Yeah,
three
right.
turns in
Like
a row.
5 times in like 5 turns. There's not even 5 horals, but yeah, like 4 turns in a row, and then you just give up.
I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah. Oh. And finally, Casper also wants to know if he thinks that the water come into play ability from the 5 mana 2K creatures in the DM10 cycle of cards are all pretty garbage. What do you think about that?
Totally, man. Pointa and Estel's water effects are rubbish. I do wonder if draw would be too strong, though, especially in the TCG
Yeah.
card pool. Because if you think about it, that's what they had in DMP, and like Pointa was everywhere. And DMP had a stronger card pool as well.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm not sure how I feel about them having draw one in the TCG. Maybe it would be okay. Like Pointa would certainly give mid-range decks a boost. But I'm also not sure if I want to live in a world where Hydro Hurricane and Ruby Control can get shields back with Estel. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even Estel was kind of like played in DMP as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but definitely Pointer. I think Pointer would be leaning towards the strong side of things. But I don't know. Hashtag DMP did nothing wrong, right?
Now, going back to our game, I don't think this is a hot take either, so I'm just gonna give this 1 chili.
Oh man, you're being harsh. But no, I agree. I think this one is the least hot take out of these ones. So
Am I being harsh, or am I telling Catspur that, you know what? The ideas that you have are very reasonable, and they're not unpopular at all.
yeah, 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 yeah. 1 out of 10 for me as well.
All right. So moving on to the next take, Jacob asks, or Jacob thinks, by the way, welcome back, Jacob, from Jacob really contributed a lot to our last subscriber interaction video. Jacob reckons almost all meta artwork is trash or mediocre or is outdone by other cards, and they really wasted all the best artwork on completely unplayable cards.
Okay, I think this one is a really hot take.
Ooh.
I mean, just look at Bomedius and Bombazar, right?
Uh-huh.
Those are like perfect, like, I don't know, cards or pictures they want on your playmat. It's insane.
Right, okay.
But I think in general, the card art in DM is just amazing all around. Even some of the more fringe playable cards like Alcadius and Fighter Duel Fan, or even like Hydrus, right? They look amazing. So I definitely think, this one's a hot take. I would give it 9 chilies.
First of all, Andrew, well done. Wizards of the Coast, we are taking offers. Now, for my response, I agree with the spirit of the opinion, but not necessarily the opinion itself. So I would classify this as a warm take.
Oh man, this is the first time we disagreed, I think.
Yeah, because speaking for myself, I never had a problem with the artwork of meta cards at large, though, it could be nostalgia talking. Some designs I liked, some I thought were odd or less good, but I wouldn't go as far as to call them trash. But I do agree, at least in the TCG, There is so much amazing artwork wasted on unplayable cards, and meta card artwork is less spectacular in comparison. I guess just by virtue of there being like more unplayable cards than playable
Oh,
cards.
yes, yeah, I agree with that.
And I guess maybe also because many meta cards have lower rarity, and so they're just less cool by design.
Yep.
So overall, I somewhat agree. I would give this take 6 chilies.
Oh man. Yeah, because like the super rares have extra well, firstly they're shiny, so that's kind of not really fair. But also like their artwork goes out of the border, right?
Yeah, that is true.
Just wait until you see the full art in DMP.
Yeah, gotta plug DMP somehow. Even when we can't play Pointer anymore.
Oh no. We always have all division.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Okay, moving on. Ginjab had some interesting opinions. So he reckons that Duel Masters, like all other card games, loves dragons too much. They're disgustingly buffed each set.
Yeah, I did notice that card games tend to like dragons. And I don't think this is a hot take. In the TCG, I wouldn't say the dragons got buffed each set, but you can definitely see how they got increasingly stronger. Like from Bolshak in set 1, and Bolmedius and Baz in set 6, and then Bombazar set 10. And then, they also released like more and more dragon support, even though it wasn't that much. I can't necessarily speak for the OCG, but DMP has also given us a lot of strong dragons over its many sets. So based on that, I don't disagree that dragons are loved. I would give this 1 chili.
Oh man, you're really going like either it's like 10 out of 10 or 1 out of 10.
Yeah, we should have just done this as a 5-star system. I think.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I agree. This is definitely not a hot take. I think if you ask like the majority of people to name some of the most iconic cards, there will definitely be quite a few dragons in there.
Yeah, no doubt.
Agree that the TCG did keep it tame, but definitely if you see like in DMP, they would always try to keep like dragons relevant. I mean, there's like 10 million Bolshaks. There's like Bolshak next.
Yeah, I also got a lot of Bolmedius as well.
Yeah, heaps of Bolmedius.
Kensei, Sapphire.
Yeah. I mean, Bolmedius is kind of like the mascot. Or if you think about it, it's like the blue eyes of Duel Masters.
Yeah, I reckon it.
Yeah. So 3 chilies out of 10.
Oh, all right. Moving on to the next comment, Theo says, if you run 4 Bloody Skeeto and 4 Locomotiver and Trox, it's better than Lost Soul in a control deck.
Oh, man. I mean, I'm always down for some more Trox. And then Loco's already a pretty good card, right? So we're kind of like halfway there already.
Yeah.
But no, I think the problem with Trox is that his effect is just a bit too underwhelming, right? Like, you need to at least have 2 other creatures for his effect to be kind of good. And even then, like, it's not that good. Like, it's completing for the Lost Soul turn.
The turn that you get Lost Soul is the Lost turn.
Yeah,
So you're right.
Yeah, exactly. I think an easier fix would be having its DMP ability. We're plugging DMP a lot in this episode.
Typical Andrew. That's going on the bingo board.
Yeah. Where he himself counts as a body for the discard.
Yeah.
But even then, it wasn't really played. So I really think it just comes down to that he just costs too much. But in terms of like hot takes, I think this is pretty up there since nobody plays Trox, and probably for a good reason. 9 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. Looks like we're back on the same page, Andrew.
Yeah.
I also think this is a very hot take, but I understand why Theo might think this way. Because not only Locomotiver, but Bloody Skeeto is also, well, it used to be a pretty commonly played dark creature. And if you can get them to stick, Trox becomes Lost Soul with a body. And you can also soul swap it in, I guess. But kind of like with the first comment, combo plays are actually a lot harder than you might think.
Yeah.
And this isn't helped by the fact that, as Andrew alluded to, Trox in the TCG cannot discard cards on his own. And with the game trending away from Bloody Skeeto and Locomotive and control decks, you're asking for 10 to 12 slots to do something that can be done with 2 or 3. Yeah. And even if the aforementioned have some merit on their own, I don't think it's necessarily worth it. So I like the thought process, but unfortunately, I do not agree. I would say this is scalding hot. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. All right. Okay, B. I was gonna say P34 Hunter, but it's just Bear Hunter. He has a hot take. Mihail, Celestial Elemental, has the potential to be a tier 1 deck. What does German Duel Masters have to say about that?
Yeah, I'd like to get their thoughts on this, but I had to look up this card. I mean, I think it's a bit of a stretch, but right now I'd classify this as kind of a hot take, or like slightly hot. I'm not gonna go as far to say that it's hot. But you know, I also didn't think much of Fortress Shell, and now it's the basis of a tier 1 deck. So that's kind of what I compare this card to. I feel like if the effect is good enough, mana cost doesn't matter too much, since Soul Swap can make all the dreams come true. So right now, I'm not really seeing this as a tier 1 deck, but I can see why you think this card has potential. I mean, if you have 2 out, you've got like a Magician's Valkyrie situation going on. So yeah, even though I think it's unlikely, I don't think it's completely outside the realm of possibility. 7 chilies from me.
Oh man. Yeah, I think the comparison to Fortress Shell isn't really fair, because Fortress Shell does have like an instant gratification effect, whereas this one does take another turn. So you have to really get 2 out for it to completely go off.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not sure about tier 1. So this is a hot take. But like you said, I do see some potential in the card. I actually do remember like German Duel Masters once covered a deck on it. But I also remember it didn't do too well. So I definitely think like its cost and also not being double breaker is holding it back. Although the effect is really interesting, so you could try play around with it, and who knows, like it could be like you said, like a Fortress Shell type of scenario.
Yeah, maybe you get 1 out and then it sticks, and then all the dreams come true.
And then you break 1 shield at a time, 1 at a time. Yeah, 7 chilies as well for me.
All right, 7 chilies. All right, so moving on to our final comment for the video. This was the most interesting one, so saved it for last.
Yes, for last.
The Raz says, DM English TCG players in general are afraid of change and don't want to move on from their nostalgia rut, overthinking the format and craving for a sense of variety instead of progressing through the Japanese game, finding all kinds of excuses like, but the language barrier, but it became too complicated, but new art sucks. What do you think of that?
Oh man, this one's it's a pretty loaded one.
It's very loaded.
First of all, I do think this is a pretty hot take. I think people underestimate how big a language barrier can be.
Andrew, it's because we make it look easy.
I mean, just look at like how many of you guys like play DMP, right? It's not that easy when you're, completely like starting out fresh.
Yes.
But not only that, right? Like to foster like some sort of interest, you have to find people to play with, and I think that's where the language barrier really kicks in, is right? Like like imagine you can't really go to your local store and play. So I kind of agree with the being quite complicated, at least the OCG. I remember like you and me, we looked at one of the recent tournaments, one of the OCG tournaments, and then I remember it was just like, what is happening? Like the game is
Yeah.
like nothing alike.
Yeah, totally. Where is Bronze Arm on 3?
Fair Life Evergreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember just thinking like, oh my god, these guys are taking forever, like 10-minute turns. Like you charge
Yeah.
like 1,000,000 mana and you draw 1,000,000 cards, and then we're like, what is this? Is this Pokemon TCG?
Getting flashbacks.
Yeah, I think this one takes the cake for me. I would say like 9.5 out of 10.
Oh, so you are still unwilling to give the perfect 10
Yeah,
chilies.
not yet.
All right, fair enough. So, when I first read this, I was like, ooh, I am sensing some very strong emotions here. Now, I'll start by saying I don't think this is that hot of a take.
Oh,
And
okay.
to properly react to this, I actually had to put a lot of time into my response.
Oh, man.
Because it's a pretty thought-provoking comment.
Yeah, it is.
I feel like the international DM community is split into two camps, with generally little middle ground. Camp 1 has the TCG devotees, who I think this comment is putting on blast, and Camp 2 has the people who see Duel Masters as more than just the TCG, like the Raz. I understand the frustration because the international player base is already small and is limited even further by the diverging mindsets. And, to the Raz's credit, I think there is a lot of merit to engaging in Duel Masters beyond the TCG sets. For example, the Phoenix Saga era in DM Plays was the most fun I've ever had playing Duel Masters, even more than the TCG. But I also think that people like different things about Duel Masters, so I don't see anything wrong with the TCG devotee mindset. I don't think it's that weird either, since there are groups of people in other card games who exclusively play one or two formats rather than playing through more of the game or the games. And I think there's something cool about a format being closed and being able to drill down and analyze, or as he says, overanalyze a beloved card pool.
Yep.
So like you, Andrew, where I mainly disagree is the comment on the excuses. I do consider language barrier and gameplay as major considerations on whether to pursue a card game.
Yep.
Like, to disregard these factors suggests that people should go even further out of their way to partake in something they may or may not like with little payoff. And I don't think this is a reasonable expectation considering the state of Duel Masters right now, and how people probably have a lot more going on in their lives than this game. So, speaking from experience, I have been enjoying DMP less and less since the psychic cards came out. I don't like the mechanic, and I find it hard to keep up.
Yeah, definitely.
So overall, I don't think this is that hot of a take, but I always say the correct way to play is the way that lets you have the most fun, and there are many ways to enjoy DM. I was actually wondering if a comment like this would come up, so maybe it's worth making a video around, delving into both sides of the argument.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that would be interesting.
5 chilies from me.
Oh, wow.
So that brings us to the end of today's video, part 1 of reacting to your hot takes. Thank you so much to the people who participated in this. We obviously would not be able to do this without your help. And, it's not the easiest thing to put yourself out there, share your opinions, so we very much appreciate that. We had fun going through the comments. Now stay tuned for part 2, which is coming out next week. But until then, thanks for watching, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.